How long?
5 to 7.
Perfect. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. I've heard it said that if you think you're a leader, but no one's following you, then you're really just out for a stroll. I joined Toastmasters because I wanted to become a leader. I wanted to learn how. And as such, Toastmasters has a program called Pathways, which, along with other things, teaches you how to become a better leader. So if you feel like you're out for a stroll, you're in the right place. Toastmasters is where leaders are made. It's the tagline. As part of the Pathways program, my current lesson is on leadership styles. And the first part of the lesson was a test to find out what my leadership style was. It was a series of questions that I was supposed to answer from my own leadership experience. I found this test kind of difficult. Now, there's no right or wrong answers, so I wasn't scared of failing the test or anything like that. No, what I was scared of was my own honest answers. I've always thought of myself as somewhat overbearing, hard-assed. I've even been called militant. So I was really tempted to answer the questions on this test in a way that I thought that the test wanted to hear. I didn't want to answer the way I did because I thought I was going to come across as something I didn't want to hear. So I gritted my teeth, answered the last question, clicked submit, and waited for my results. As it turns out, I didn't have anything to be afraid of. There are 8 different styles of leadership according to this lesson, and I was a pretty even mix of almost all of them. And the ones that I was kind of scared to hear were lower on the list than I expected them to be. Started off, my highest ranking one was democratic. This is someone who values input from others and uses consensus to reach goals. Thought this was a pretty good way to start because it's less militant and more collaborative. Next was innovative. Innovative leaders promote team members' creativity, and they're generally the best at solving complex problems. Also not a bad thing to be, in my opinion. Next category was pace setting. It sounded cool, although I didn't really know exactly how it applied to what I was learning until I read a little more. Turns out, they set high standards and they lead by example. They focus on productivity and embrace new projects. The next one, I didn't like the sound of. It was authoritative. It's got a connotation that says, hey, militant, right? That's what I'm trying to avoid over here. So the thing is about that, it just sounds negative. It's actually one of the best leadership styles in order to implement a change of direction or vision. And with the city going through what they're going through, now's a good time to be somewhat authoritative. Following that was coaching. That word also led me to some assumptions. I thought, man, I really wanted that to be higher in the ranking. And I read a little more and I went, as this applies to me, my team's kind of at the top of their game. I don't really have anything everybody's kind of at the top of their, game. Since I can't remember the other word I was going to use. And so there's not much for me to coach right now. So, okay, cool, it's middle of the road, I like it. But tied with that was bureaucratic. And this is the one that I actually feared. I didn't know that this is the one I actually feared. This is the leader that rules with an iron fist and inspires through discipline. And that's certainly not the person that I want to be viewed as. Now, the polar opposite of that is the altruistic leader. This is an active listener, he's empathetic, builds communities. I wasn't surprised that this was near the bottom of the list. We're getting close to the end, by the way, of these. I was always focused at work on getting the job done. Everything else kind of went by the wayside. Speaking of which, the affiliative leader is focused on emotional needs and emphasizes harmony. This makes me want to scream inside. Honestly, why would I make a spectacle of someone just simply for doing their job? I mean, friendship and feelings, those are all fringe benefits, right? But then I looked behind me to see who was following the definition of a leader, right? And saw that there wasn't anybody there. So what does it take for me to become a better leader? Perhaps I should focus on the attributes of successful leaders. There are 5 common attributes of successful leaders. The first is that they are effective communicators. And as the old saying goes, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So in order to be effective, I've got to focus more on how I make others feel. The second is that they lead by example. I remember hearing this just a moment ago. That was the pace setting style. So I'm pretty good at that. I rank pretty high in that. But there's always room for improvement, so I'll keep working on it. Third trait was optimistic. Let's just say I'm working on that one. Okay. Although the more I learn, the more I find that there's reason for me to be optimistic. Next is being open-minded. Well, the democratic and innovative styles, they tend to be very open-minded. Never thought of myself that way, but according to this test, I'm good. So I'm going to leave that one alone and focus on the others. And then the last one is demonstrating integrity. This refers to being honest and ethical, to giving credit to others for their work. It's best described as kind of a combination of the democratic and altruistic leading styles. My best and one of my lowest ranking styles, according to the test. So now I've compiled all this data, and I kind of have an idea of where to go from here. So thank you to Toastmasters Pathways for giving me that roadmap and for giving me the valued insight that will help me to become the leader who's worthy of followers. Thank you.